Elliot really wants to be part of the video today. He's not leaving my side. Okay, I need to start. Pause. Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel, Lockdown Literary Club. I am Sanjana, and today I wanted to talk about the books I'm going to be reading in September, my to-be-read list, TBR list for September. The first video I ever made was the 10 books I was going to read in August. So I finished 10 books. I'm on my book 11 and 12, so by the end of this month I should be done with 12 books. Right now I'm reading Strangest of the Mist. I'm about fourth of the way in. This book is it's a lot. Some parts of it I felt like he writes like a Regency era author with like a lot of adjectives thrown in. Just really redundant for a non-fiction book. You really don't need that many details. Just give me the facts and we'll be done with it. And even the facts, like, he gets into the minutiae of things, and it's been a lot. But I'm going to power through it. I'm actually reading this book with a friend. I've actually buddy read 3 books in August with my buddies. I read Sharp Objects with my cousin, and that was really fun, just because Sharp Objects is a thriller, so it was really fun to go back and forth and like come up with theories of what's going to happen. And we were both, for the most part, right, so felt good to be right. And also read Shimon Peres' No Room for Small Dreams with a friend. Part of the reason is because that book, as I started reading it, I realized there's a lot of religious ideology thrown in. I'm not the biggest fan of extreme religiosity, so I had a friend of mine read that with me, who's getting a PhD in Arabic, and so you can expect that she'd have a pretty decent understanding of the Middle East. So, like, it helped to have someone to go back and forth with on that book. And this, I'm still working my way through it, but this is also a buddy read for me. But it's been really fun. So for the books I'm reading in September, if any of you guys want to read along with me, let me know and we'll do it. I realize it's more fun sometimes when you read along with someone else. Okay, the other book I'm reading right now is on my Kindle. I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Iain Reid. This book wasn't part of my list originally. The reason I'm reading it is because the movie's coming out September 4th, and I really want to read the book before the movie comes out. I thought this book for some reason was about suicide, but it's not. I think it's about a relationship. It's really interesting so far. I'm not quite sure what genre to put it in. It seems like a road trip book. I'm like 30% of the way in. But there's also like all these philosophical discussions thrown in. And there's also like a thriller element. We get no information about the protagonist at all. I'm very confused by it, but I like it. I think, I'm not sure. It's only like 30% of the way in, so let's see if I really like the book. And I'm going to watch the movie for sure. Then I might do a video about the book and the movie. But either way, that's the reason I snuck it in. Because I'm going to finish 12 books this month, I thought I'd give myself a little higher goal to achieve and try to read 11 books in September. I will let myself off the hook though if I only manage to read 10, because some of these books are really fat. And I'll show them to you now. So these are the 11 books I want to read in September. It's a lot. I don't know. Oh, they're heavy. Okay, so there's a theme to it, if you guys can figure it out. It's warm colors. I have almost all the books have either some kind of orange or red or pink in their cover art. I try to generally pick books from different genres, so I have like a mixed selection every month. So this is quite mixed. You'll see when I'm explaining what the books are about. Before I get into the books, I hit 100 subscribers sometime yesterday or day before yesterday. I don't know, that's not a big achievement for a lot of people, but it was a good milestone for me. And I don't know, just the fact that like I'm still doing it. I thought I'd quit in the second week. I'm really not comfortable in front of a camera. I just want to say thank you for the 100 subscribers, and I don't know, for reaching out, for reading along with me, it's been great. So thank you. Milestone. Waste any more time and just tell you guys what these books are about. So the first book is Dune by Frank Herbert. I think it's Herbert. I had a professor in college whose name was spelled the same way, but the H and the T were silent, so it was Herbert. But I don't think that's the case with this book, so I'm just going to say Frank Herbert. So Dune is actually known as a precursor to a lot of modern sci-fi books. So it's a sci-fi classic, and I'm trying to read all the classics in all the genres. So part of the reason I'm reading this book is because it's a classic. Another reason is the movie's coming out sometime this year or next year. I don't know if they've put out a release date yet, but it stars, among other people, it has a great star cast, but the people that stood out to me were Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya. I think Timothée Chalamet plays the main protagonist of the book in the movie. So I really wanted to read the book before the movie comes out. Yeah, that's the reason I'm reading it. Literally, that's all. I know nothing about the book and that it's a classic. It's a really long book. It's a series, but I don't know if everyone's required to read the series. As far as I know, it works well as a standalone book too. It might be a self-contained story. I haven't read too much sci-fi in my life. Like, I read a lot of fantasy, but sci-fi has never really been my genre. But I've been enjoying it. I read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy last month, and that was good. It's dry, British, sarcastic humor, which is just like my sweet spot. This genre has been good to me so far, so we'll see how where it goes. Next one I have is hopefully one of my easier reads and light-hearted reads this month, which is Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. This book is popular. This falls under the chick lit genre, though I find the word chick lit quite sexist, if you ask me. We need to come up with a better word for this genre. I do like romance books, but I'm harsh towards them sometimes, mostly because most books in this genre, the female protagonist is very narcissistic or self-involved and makes really dumb, nonsensical choices. And after the 10th book you read in that format, you're just like, why? Why do they have to be weak and clumsy all the time? Why can't they be like self-actualized real women that make, because we make mistakes all the time. You don't have to be dumb and narcissistic to make mistakes. So hopefully this isn't that. This has a lot of great reviews, so I'm gonna read this. And then I'm going to read, I'm also definitely going to read Take a Hint, Danny Brown, because even if this is not good, I'm just going to give it another shot. Just because I think they're one of the more highly rated books in this genre. So if this doesn't work, I don't know what will. Okay, next book I have it's a non-fiction book, Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. Malcolm Gladwell is a pretty famous guy. He worked for the Washington Post and the New Yorker magazine. I think all his books have been New York Times bestsellers. He did David and Goliath, Blink, Tipping Point, this, and even though I know all the books he's ever published, I haven't read any of them. Because I see his books all the time at bookstores, but I actually have never ended up picking up one and reading it. This would be my first. So this is about like a in-depth study of successful people in society. The title Outliers is a little misleading because outliers just means outside of the norm of the bell curve, which could be any side. Like it could be like you could be a good outlier or a bad outlier. So I don't know, a more precise title would have helped, but yes, I don't know why I'm criticizing the title. I have nothing to say about this book. I don't know if this book is giving you any kind of advice, if it falls more in the self-help genre or in the long-form journalism genre. Hopefully in the long-form journalism genre, because I like to learn things, so hopefully I learn a lot and I'm not preached to on how to live life. But yay, Malcolm Gladwell. Okay, powering right through. Oh, this book I'm really excited about. This is Calypso by David Sedaris. I've read like 2 or 3 other books by David Sedaris. I've read Naked, Me Talk Pretty One Day, Dress Your Family in Corduroy Pants. And I read all 3 of those in like one summer 2-3 years ago. They all kind of bleed together for me in my head. I cannot tell you where one story is from and the other story is from. It's just all together. So David Sedaris is a famous humorist and he writes memoirs. At least all the books I've read of his have been memoirs, where he just like tells his life stories, but it's not like chronological. It's not always like I was born here, I did this, I did this, I did this. It's more like personal essays, like short essays on each topic, and each chapter would be a different point in his life and a different topic. And they're really funny. He comes from a middle class American family. He is gay, and I remember a bunch of stories in his books about like his contentious relationship with his father, about coming out, and how he was never fully accepted. His mother and his sisters eventually go along with it. But this book, Calypso, is his most critically acclaimed one. And it's the one I haven't read, so I'm really looking forward to it. Just because he's an author I already like and I know, so it should be good. Oh yeah, I would definitely recommend his other books to you. I don't know about this one yet, but his other books are great. So my next book is Educated by Tara Westover. I've actually recommended this book to a lot of people and I haven't read it yet. So if you're one of those people I've recommended this book to and you're wondering, wait, you told me to read this book and haven't read it? Do you regret it? Isn't it great already? Because I know the story. I already knew the story of this book and I've been meaning to read it for such a long time. And I don't know how I keep missing it, but I'm finally reading it. My sister-in-law also got to it before I did. Look at it. She's reading it right now. So I kind of stole this book for her for this video. She's a little mad, so I have to finish this video and give it back to her. What can I say about this book? So this book is nonfiction and it's a biography. So Tara Westover is from Idaho and she comes from this really cultish family where they believe it's the end of the days and they don't believe in formal education or the government or healthcare. There's no birth certificate for her or she's never taken to the hospital. So she actually doesn't have formal education, I think, till she's about 16, and then she decides to leave her family and get educated, which is why the book is called Educated, I'm guessing. So she went to college and then got her master's or PhD at Cambridge. But that's pretty badass, like to not have gone to school till you're 16 and then get that far in life. It's just insane. 16 is a pretty well-formed human being at that point. Like there's 2 years of high school left. That's barely anything. I basically did not retain any information in my senior year of high school, so I don't know. It doesn't even make sense to me that she managed to pull this off. There's this line at the back of the book that really hooked me. It goes, in doing so, she discovered both the transformative power of education and the price she had to pay for it. It seems like it's like a emotional family drama, and I like messed up families and drama. That's really fun for me. Also, like the transformative power of education. Yes, definitely. I definitely believe in transformative power of education. I don't agree that you have to spend ridiculous amounts on college or school. I know I'm kind of a hypocrite saying this because I did go to expensive schools and colleges, but having gone there, I can tell you that our education really shouldn't be this expensive. I'm excited to read this book and engage in discussion about the education system if that's where it leads. So, yay! I haven't read it and I would recommend you read it already. That's how much trust I'm placing in this book with no information. Some information. The next book I'm going to read is going to be The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I think this book, based on the back, is a retelling of the Iliad, or just like a portion of the Iliad. It focuses on Achilles' story, but Achilles and all the heroes and the war it mentions in the back are from the epic Iliad by Homer. So if you guys don't know what Iliad is, Iliad and the Odyssey are two different poems which are really famous texts in Greek mythology. They are for Greek mythology what Ramayana and Mahabharata are for Indian mythology. There's wars, there's heroes, there's love stories, there's gods that are meddling in things they shouldn't meddle in. There's gods on both sides of the war and they're giving boons and condemning humans, and there's half god, half humans. It's complicated, Iliad and Odyssey. So it's very rich. It's just like Ramayana and Mahabharata. If none of this still rings a bell for you, if you've watched the movie Troy, then yes, that is the story of Iliad. The Iliad is about the Trojan War, but it's a lot more complicated than the movie Troy. So anyways, this is supposed to be that. From the back of it, I have a feeling it might be a gay love story. I don't know why I feel this way. This is becoming a pattern for me, just reading gay love stories every month. I don't mind. They're all great. It's not intentional at this point. It's just happening to me. If that's what it is. If it's not, then that's fine too. Another cultural reference for you. If you guys don't know the story of Achilles, the reason your tendon at the back of your foot is called Achilles tendon is because Achilles is blessed with impenetrability, like he can't be harmed at all, except he has one spot on his body where he can be hurt, and that's his Achilles tendon. So anywhere else you attack him, he won't die. But if you hit his Achilles tendons, he'll die, and that's how, spoiler alert, he dies. I don't know if it's spoiler alert. It should be just common knowledge at this point. If you guys are wondering why does he have one spot on his body where he's vulnerable, then either read this book, I'm sure it'll get into it, or the Iliad, or just look it up. I can't do all your work for you. The next book I'm going to read, I'm really reading today. So this one is Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. Such a pretty cover. I actually kind of bought it because I thought the cover was really pretty. I'm really late to the Pachinko party where I know most of my friends have already read this book. So I didn't even bother reading the back. I had someone tell me what it's about. And as my friend described it, she said it's a family story in 4 different generations. And the thing that she said about this book that really got my attention was that it kind of skips, like there'd be something dramatic that happens. And next page, you turn the next page and it's like 50 years later. It's at a different part of the story and a different character, and it kind of gives you a whiplash. And that seemed like a really cool storytelling technique. So I'm like, I'm down for this book. Definitely interested. This book won the National Award in 2017, so I'm pretty sure it'll be really good. So Pachinko should be good. The next book I have is the one I've been dreading for a long time, and this is Ants Among Elephants by Sujatha Gidla. This book, actually a friend recommended I read this like 2-3 years ago. I think sometime last year I did like buy the Kindle version of it and read maybe a chapter or 2, and then I put it down because I was busy with work, not because the book was bad. But the reason I'm dreading this book is because it's nonfiction and it's about Dalits or untouchables, and it's set in Andhra Pradesh, so it's very close to home, and it's going to point out a lot of things that are wrong with our society here, and it's sometimes hard to take the criticisms. I just wasn't looking forward to that part of it, but also very important as someone who's always telling people that we need to change and we need to accept our faults as a society. This is important I go through it, so I'm going to read it now. The first couple of chapters, as far as I remember, Sujatha Gidla is from Warangal, and this is an example of the transformative power of education, because she gets a scholarship or goes to school somewhere outside of AP. I think she goes to Delhi for education, and then later goes to America. She gets educated and her life completely changes, and then she becomes a journalist or wants to write the story of her family. So she comes back and she starts interviewing different people in her family and focuses, at least in the beginning of the book, she's focused on her uncle or her grand uncle or someone who's a communist leader. That's as far as I read. So it seems like a cool story so far. So it should be good. This book has a lot of positive reviews. It won winner of Shakti Bhatt First Book Prize 2018. So it won some awards. It has really great reviews, and I'm sure it's a great book. And I'm sorry I took so long to read it. It should be informative and maybe a much needed jolt to my currently held views about the world. So, yay. The next book I'm going to read is City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. I've actually read a book by Elizabeth Gilbert before. I read Eat, Pray, Love way back when, and I really, really liked that book then. In fact, I pushed that book onto a lot of people. I remember buying a few different copies of the book and always gifting it to people and be like, read it, read it. I think part of the reason was it was the first non-fiction book I read, and I didn't realize non-fiction books could be good at that point. And yeah, it's just, it worked for me then. I don't know if I would like it as much now, but I definitely enjoyed it then. This is not nonfiction. This is definitely fiction. It's set in the 1940s, and it's about a 19-year-old called Vivian Morris who goes to New York and gets up to some shenanigans, it seems like. And I feel like she's going to discover her feminist voice. And this book came out last year, and it's popular. So I liked her writing before, so I'm just going to give this a shot and see what this one's like. As far as I remember, Elizabeth Gilbert was a journalist or a reporter of some sort. She was working for a magazine or something when in Eat, Pray, Love, and she quits her job and goes on a year-long journey to find herself. It's a good book. If you guys want to read Eat, Pray, Love, read it. The concept of finding yourself in exotic locations might just be a little overdone at this point, but it's non-fiction, so she actually did it. It's her real life story, so that one's definitely a good book. Hopefully this one is too. We'll see. Oh, this next one is going to be a tough book to read. This is The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. So this book won the Pulitzer Prize for fiction in this year, 2020. So obviously it's going to be really, really good. But the subject matter is just going to be a little dark and a little heavy. This author also wrote another Pulitzer Prize winning book called The Underground Railroad. And they both kind of deal with the African American experience in America. I haven't read The Underground Railroad yet. I do know what that story is about generally because I have an idea of the American history. This book is set much later. It's about a reformed juvenile school in Florida that was operational for about 111 years on incarcerated minors. It basically practiced government-sanctioned rape, torture, murder. Juvenile reform centers or schools are for kids who've committed crimes but are under the age of 18. I don't know if the school is supposed to be exclusively for African Americans or this majority of the students are African American because, America disproportionately incarcerates African Americans for the same crimes white people commit. Though, I don't know, 111 years ago, were schools segregated 111 years ago? I think they were. So it might just be schools just for African Americans. This school closed down in 2011, so it'd be fucked up if it's a school just for African Americans. So it's gonna be shining light on the really, really dark and terrible parts of society. But it's a Pulitzer Prize winner, so it's going to be a brilliant book, I'm sure. So I'm going to read it and see why it won a prize, and then probably cry at the state of society. God, it's just this year has been, I know which book I'm going to read last because I am savoring it. So the book is Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. This is the second book in the duology. The first book is Six of Crows, and I read that last month. I want to read this end of September because I just want to really, really savor it. I've spent most of August thinking about the characters in this book. And it ends sort of on a cliffhanger, so I definitely need to read this book, and I'm really looking forward to reading this book. I haven't been this excited for a fantasy book in a long time, in a really long time. I spent most of August just thinking about the characters in this book. And I was reading really good books in August. Most of them have been like 4 stars and 3-star reads. Despite all of that, the Six of Crows just really stood out, and the characters were with me. And now that I think about it, I think it's because it's really, really good world building. The world building was just excellent. It's really good young adult fantasy. If anyone's looking for that, I would really recommend reading the first book, Six of Crows. And I'm sure this is going to be really good too, because of the 2 books, this has better rating, and everyone says this is the better book. So I'm just really excited for this book. I cannot wait to read it, which is why I'm forcing myself to wait a little longer to read it. That's it. Those are the 11 books. If you guys want to read any of those books with me, let me know. I still have to do my July books I've read in July review, books I've read in August review, and other stuff. I might do a review of some of the cookbooks I like to use because I don't know if you guys follow me on Instagram, you do know that I like to cook a lot, and I'm a decent cook. Not really good, but definitely not a bad cook. So I might do a cookbook video at some point. And there's all these other ones I want to try out, but let's see how this goes. But thank you for watching. If you guys want to read along with me, either reach out to me or follow me on Goodreads or on this channel, leave me a comment, or I don't know, if your preferred platform is still Instagram, you can definitely leave me a message there. But yeah, thank you for the 100 subscribers. Thank you for watching my channel, and thank you for just being all around great. Okay, bye. Mic out. Mic drop.